Welcome to an introduction to the Swift feature, Strong Educator Support System. I'm Allison.
And I'm Dan. Let's get started. Recall that this domain is one of the 5 evidence-based concepts that, when implemented together, transforms teaching and learning for the success of all students. The administrative leadership domain has 2 features, strong and engaged site leadership and strong educator support system. Today we're going to talk about strong educator support system.
Strong Educator Support System is about supporting efforts to improve teaching and learning in 3 ways. First, through instructional coaching. Second, through professional learning. And third, through supportive personnel evaluations.
With a wealth of research to support these particular features, some highlights are specifically related to how coaching affects student achievement and graduation rates, and the importance of growth-oriented teacher evaluation systems. Instructional coaching is related to improving academic achievement. Instructional coaching is also related to improved graduation rates, and educator personnel evaluation systems that primarily build educator capacity and effectiveness are both comprehensive and specific, and they focus on the teacher's growth in various educational and instructional activities.
So how are we going to create or strengthen our existing educator support system? Let's unpack these 5 practices that are recommended to get us started. These are 5 practices related to strong educator support system. Practice 1, provide access to instructional coaching. Practice 2, seek input from teachers on professional learning needs. Practice 3, make professional learning opportunities available to all educators and support staff. Practice 4, use data to guide professional learning activities. In Practice 5, conduct strengths-based evaluations.
Practice 1. Let's look more closely at the steps necessary to provide access to instructional coaching. What should it include? When we think about instructional coaching, we're thinking about the facilitated process of reflection and opportunities for demonstration, support, and feedback. We know that in order for coaching to be most successful, it requires an inviting and trusting culture. What can we do that will make a difference in this area? How can we make the teacher the most active participant in the process and ensure that his or her needs are being met? Spend a moment discussing how can we create an inviting and trusting culture for coaching. Who could be a coach? Although a coach may or may not be in a particular role or designated by title, we can think about how everyone can serve as a coach to one another. If your school staff does not include one or more full-time instructional coaches, consider other resources that may meet this need, such as teacher leaders, mentors, district-level coaches, and peers. When we think about ensuring that we all have access to instructional coaching, we want to think broadly about the concept of coaching. How can we think of each teacher as a coach to one another? In one Swift partner district, staff at 2 schools are developing a process for instructional rounds in which staff visit each other in each other's classrooms, observe, have the opportunity to debrief and ask questions, and engage in a form of informal coaching with one another. Spend a moment discussing. When do we have designated coaches available, and how can we most effectively use their time and expertise? How will we identify who may need instructional coaching? We will want to ensure coaching support is offered to new professionals, usually first and second year teachers, and that it's something that would be desirable and engaged by all educators. Develop guidelines for identifying the need for instructional coaching. Ensure that the process is data-driven, structured, and one that can be accessed for any academic and/or behavioral area. All educators should have access to instructional coaching. Therefore, create a process for any teacher to request instructional coaching support.
Now let's look at how we seek input from teachers on professional learning needs. We know that professional learning needs need to be relevant and meaningful. We want to think about the process that we use to identify and support professional development towards this end. First, how will we get input? It's important that we formatively gather input from teachers that informs the professional development planning. For example, you could do a survey with teachers, poll the teachers, or do a needs assessment to find out what staff need as far as professional development goes. It's also important to think about what a teacher-led process could look like at our school. In addition to the results of a school's data review, needs assessments are one way to look at needs across the faculty. How else can we ensure we are understanding our individual and collective needs? In order to affirmatively identify areas, we will want to make sure that we continually ask and determine what our next steps are to make the most out of our current and future learning. It's also important to consider whether or not our professional learning is aligned with our vision. We want to think about how our professional learning is aligned with our vision that was shaped by various stakeholders, and we want to ensure that choice will allow us as adults to make the best fit decisions for our professional learning plans. So it's important to think about how we will provide choice at our school for professional learning. Just as we differentiate to meet student needs, we want to think about how our professional development opportunities can do the same. For example, one school's school improvement plan identified the use of faculty book studies that would be beneficial. Rather than everyone reading the same book, teachers selected from 3 options and then had faculty meeting time devoted monthly to a book club and added a jigsaw sharing across the books so everyone participated deeply in one book, but were indirectly participating in all 3.
Practice number 3, make learning opportunities available to all. A third practice related to creating a strong educator support system is striving to make sure that all professional learning is inclusive and available to all interested parties. And beyond being available, we want to be strategic and intentional about sending information to all staff members. For example, how could we think about making sure our general ELL and specialized educators are all at the same table during professional learning sessions? Ensuring our support staff, like school psychologists and speech pathologists, are included in professional learning activities. Recognizing the gaps created by isolated professional development, one Swift partner district began combining their reading specialists and resource teacher meetings in a joint session. In order to allow for some role-specific information, the first or last hour was used in role-specific development, which allowed for 2.5 hours of combined training. How can we think differently about how accessible our professional learning is to other interested parties? How can we think differently about proactively designing our system to provide high-quality learning opportunities to support staff? The same district made an intentional decision to ensure paraprofessionals attended professional learning sessions alongside general and special education teaching colleagues. Not only did this combined activity help shape a common language, it provided natural opportunities for sharing and informal planning. Spend a moment discussing how can we make professional learning opportunities available to all educators and support staff.
Practice 4. It's important that we use school-wide data to guide professional learning activities. We want to be mindful of professional learning needs as we analyze the data. What are the data suggesting? What structures have we had in the past that contributed to positive change? How can we learn from past structures to design what would be impactful for us at this point? The data that we gather from SwiftFit and/or SwiftVia, combined with student academic and behavior data, will make for a strong priority and planning process. Part of this process will likely include professional learning needs that can be matched or created to meet the specific needs identified by the whole faculty or a planning team.
Practice 5. Conduct strength-based personnel evaluations. The last essential practice included in this feature addresses ensuring personnel evaluations are supportive and focused on improving teaching and learning. Use multiple sources of evidence for personnel evaluations. We want to ensure multiple sources or artifacts are used and that the process results in specific improvements in the teaching and learning process. Personnel evaluations should not rely on only one piece of data. Instead, the evaluations should consider multiple sources, such as self-reflections, observations, and student data. Provide feedback that is specific, positive, and has a growth orientation. What could that feedback look like? How can our evaluation process be linked directly to our vision? For example, one Swift partner school created as a part of their vision just that. Staff evaluations will be instructional and informative and be connected to professional development and an overall culture of continued learning. We might ask what specific opportunities exist within our evaluation process that we can use to make this vision come to life. What is missing or what could be added? Spend a moment discussing How can we strengthen our feedback so it's positive, specific, and growth-oriented?
We just covered 5 practices that are good launching points for addressing a strong and supportive educator system. Let's debrief as we think about our own district or building. Think about, why is creating a strong educator support system important? Discuss what strengths are already in place at your school and district. Discuss opportunities for growth. Then set some goals and next steps.